Hello and welcome back to Bicyclelegs and another edition of Studio Albums Ranked. Today I'm going to be looking at the catalogue of the wonderful British jazz funk band Level 42. Going solo today, no guest unfortunately, but yeah, I really wanted to talk about this band because they're a band that I really love. You know, they started in the early 80s. They're still touring to this day. Their last studio album was put out about 16 years ago, but the original lineup of this band was Mark King on bass and vocals, Mike Lindup on keyboards and vocals, Phil Gould on drums and a little bit of backing vocals, and Boone Gould on guitar. Unfortunately, of course, Boone Gould no longer with us. But Mark King and Mike Lindup are still in the lineup of Level 42 to this day. Wonderful band. 10 studio albums we're going to be looking at. I'm not going to be including any live albums. I'm also not going to be including the early tapes album, because to me that's not really a studio album. It's more of a collection of early recordings, like a compilation really, not a proper studio album as such. So there's 10 studio albums, and I love all of these albums, I really do. So this was a hard ranking to do, but you know, the whole point of the show is to put these in some kind of order. So I've put them in the order of preference that I have for them. As I say, I still like all of these albums. It's just I like some of them a bit more than others. There's no stinkers in the Level 42 catalogue. So having said all of that, let's get into it and look at my number 10, which is going to be their 1988 album, Staring at the Sun. This is the first album without the Gould brothers. They'd both left the band by this stage. They were replaced by Gary Husband on drums and Alan Murphy on guitar, who unfortunately not long after this would die himself, which is really sad. So this is the only album that he appeared on. This album has some great tracks. The reason I'm probably ranking it at the bottom is that it's one of the few albums of theirs where there's a couple of tracks I'm really not all that keen on. But having said that, there's some really good songs like Heaven in My Hands. This is going to be a recurring theme with this band as we go through these albums, is having an absolutely stonking opening track. And this is no exception. Heaven in My Hands is just a great way to announce yourselves and start an album out. Over There, I really like. Silence is a beautiful song Mike Lindup sings. Staring at the Sun, the title track, absolutely gorgeous, really moody track. I really don't know how else to describe it, but it's a wonderful song. Man, the closing track is, to me, Level 42's prog move. It's where they really go for like a proggy kind of sound. A lot of prog people like Level 42. You know, they'd had some people end up in the band who would go on and play with bands like King Crimson. So, you know, obviously this band was well respected for its chops. But Man is where they really do kind of sound prog. They do some really tricky stuff, some different time signatures, and it's great. And on the CD you get wonderful instrumental Gresham Blues, which really wonderful too. It's just there's a couple of tracks on here I'm not so keen on. I won't go into them, but it's a good album. I still recommend this album, but it is my least favourite of their catalogue. At number 9, we're going to have their most recent album from 2006, which is Retroglide. Hasn't been released on vinyl, only on CD as far as I'm aware. This is a really good album. It's the first album they've done in like 12 years, and it's the last album they've done at all. As I said, they're still touring to this day, but they haven't done any new music or new albums. I think they put an EP out after this one, but no new albums since this one. And Boone Gould came back to write lyrics for this album, and he plays guitar solo on the closing track Ship, which might be my favorite song on the album. Absolutely wonderful song. But, you know, you've got Dive Into the Sun, which is really good. Again, great album opener. You've got The Way Back Home, Just For You, Sleep Talking, Retroglide, the title track is really good too. A lot of really good songs on here. Probably the reason I don't rank this one quite as highly though is the production on it. It's mastered in a way that makes it sound very compressed, very loud, you know, sort of loudness war kind of thing. Makes it a bit of a hard listen on the ears, but there's some really, really good songs on here. My number 8 is going to be their album from 1991, and that is Guaranteed. Now this is the album that came out after Staring at the Sun. They'd unfortunately lost Alan Murphy. The guitar player that's on the cover there is a young Jacko Jaksic who would later go on to play in King Crimson. And Gavin Harrison would play drums with them, like touring, but he's not the drummer on this album. Gary Husband's still the drummer on this album. A mighty fine jazz rock drummer in his own right. But Alan Holdsworth, the late great Alan Holdsworth, actually plays a lot of the guitar solos on this album. He's not a full member of the band, but he plays some wonderful stuff on here. Again, it starts off brilliantly with the title track, Guaranteed. Wonderful poppy single, really enjoy that. Overtime's a really good song. 7 Years, absolutely love that song. That might, for me, be Mark King's best ever vocal performance. It's a really, really great song. He challenges his upper register and it's really good. Set Me Up, the funkiest thing on this album. It's dirty, it's funky, it's a great vocal from Mike Lindup. Really, really love it. The Ape, musically I love it. It's, you know, really jazzy, that one. And I really enjoy that. The lyrics are a little goofy, but I don't really care about that. It's a great song. My Father's Shoes is good. She Can't Help Herself is one of their gorgeous ballads. They do really good ballads, this band. If You Were Mine. Yeah, there's a lot of really good songs on this album. I highly recommend this album. It was where they'd sort of got into a pop phase, this band, from sort of the mid-80s up until this album. And this album, they were trying to move a little bit back to their sort of jazz funk roots. They still had plenty of pop on here. I like their pop as well as their jazz funk, so don't get me wrong with that. But yeah, it's a really good album. The next album, though, is probably going to shock a lot of people that I'm ranking it at number 7, because it's going to be some people's favorite. I know that. I love this album. It's just, I love the other albums a little bit better. And that is their 1987 album, Running in the Family. This was where I actually first got into the band. I was introduced to this band by a high school friend named Tony Wall. Hi, Tony, if you're watching. And because this band really weren't popular in Australia. They were popular in the UK, popular in Europe. They even had a hit or two in the US, but they never really did anything here in Australia, which is a shame because they're a great band and this is a wonderful album. It's a great introduction, I think, for me into the band. Again, Lessons in Love, the opening track. What a great way to start an album. Children Say is a great song, beautiful song. Running in the Family, wonderful poppy song with a little bit of the funk there. It's Over, one of their most gorgeous heartbreaking ballads. Absolutely love that song. Side 2 doesn't quite hold up to side 1 as far as I'm concerned, but you've got a couple of gems on side 2. Two Solitudes, wonderful Mike Lindup song. Really love that. Fashion Fever is fun. Really good pop song. And The Sleepwalkers might be almost my favourite song on the album. It's a really, really good way to close the album. Although on the CD version you get Freedom Someday as a bonus track. And that's a really good song too. But I like The Sleepwalkers as a closing track. This is a great album. But my number 6 is going to be their album from 1994, which is Forever Now. To me, This is their soul album. This really has a soul feel to it. Phil Gould comes back into the band for this one album, play drums, write lyrics. Again, absolutely stonking opening track with Forever Now. Really great song, funky, great horns on it. Model Friend and Tired of Waiting are good songs. All Overused, probably the one song where they really go in a sort of a dance direction rather than the soul direction that most of this album goes on. It was a good single. I really like it. Love in a Peaceful World. What a beautiful song. And this really is got that gorgeous soul feeling to it. You know, it's got those slinky sort of strings, and yeah, it's just wonderful. Then you've got Billy's Gone, One in a Million, the Sunbed song, Talking in Your Sleep, Don't Bother Me. There's a lot of great tracks on this. But as I say, it's a bit of a different album from most of the other ones in their catalogue because it does have that soul feel to it. But I really, really like that. My number 5 is going to be their second album, which was from 1982, and that is The Pursuit of Accidents. This is when the band was still absolutely in their jazz funk early period. You've still got a couple of instrumentals on this album. After this album, they would stop doing the instrumentals except for Gresham Blues on the CD version of Staring at the Sun, which is a shame because I really love the instrumentals. But you've got great songs on here. Weave Your Spell. It's unusual for a Level 42 album to start with a Mike Lindup vocal, but it works really well. It's a great opening track. Pursuit of Accidents is one of those great instrumentals on this album. Last Chance, Are You Hearing What I Hear is a really great way to close side one. You Can't Blame Lewis, love it. Eyes Water Falling, what an incredible track that is. Absolutely love it. It's got this really sort of cascading feel to the music, as a track with the word waterfall in it would suggest. But it's a wonderful song. Shapeshifter, another really great instrumental. And then The Chinese Way. It's a Stone Gold Level 42 classic. To this day, they still play that one in concert. Absolutely wonderful song. And I always loved it. I remember seeing the video that came out after Running in the Family. It was live at Wembley Arena or whatever it was. And they do a wonderful version of The Chinese Way on there. Great album. My number 4 and my number 3, I could switch these two between each other on any particular day that you ask me. They're very, very close in ranking. But my number 4 is going to be their album from 1985, and that is World Machine. This is where the band started really sort of exploring the pop side of things. There's still plenty of sort of jazzy and funky stuff on here, but they're definitely getting into the sort of pop side of things as well. World Machine, the opening track. Great song. Physical Presence. Possibly the funkiest song they ever did. It's at this mid-tempo, but it's really dirty and funky. The bass line and the drums are just absolutely great. Love them. Just before this album came out, they did a live album which was called A Physical Presence. I don't know if this song was written before they had the live album. It's not on the live album, but this album came out just after the live album, so just an interesting coincidence there. Something About You, great pop hit for them. Leaving Me Now, another one of their gorgeous heartbreaking ballads. Absolutely love that song, still brings a tear to the eye sometimes. Probably what I rank this one number 4 rather than number 3 is side 2. Maybe doesn't quite hold up to side 1 as well. But you've still got some good songs on here. I mean, I Sleep on My Heart is a really good song. It's Not the Same for Us is this sort of mid-tempo thing that Mike Lindup sings. Good Man in a Storm. Coup d'etat is probably the unrecognised gem on this album. Really, really good song. And then Lying Still. is another sort of heartbreaker of a song to end the album. It's a great album, but just pipping it, I think, for me, is their previous album from 1984, which is True Colours. And probably the reason I rank this one just a little bit higher is, as I said, I think side 2 on this one holds up a bit better than side 2 on World Machine. But on side 1, again, killer opening track with The Chant Has Begun. Love that song. Kansas City Milkman. Oh, what a great song. There's a wonderful live version of that on A Physical Presence, which I absolutely love. 7 Days, possibly my favourite Level 42 ballad. What a gorgeous song. Hot Water. So funky and just incredible. Really great song. And again, you know, a highlight of their live sets to this day. But then side 2, you've got songs that aren't as well known, but I still think they're really good songs, like A Floating Life. True Believers is a good song. Kuyate, I love that song. Absolutely gorgeous song with this sort of tribal kind of thing going on in the music. It's really cool. And then this really sort of dark, depressing song to end the album, which is a really strange way to end the album, but it's a great song, a song called Hours by the Window. It's a really good album, beginning to end. My number 2 is going to be their third album from 1983, and that is Standing in the Light. Still very much in the jazz funk sort of period, produced by Larry Dunn and Verdine White. Micro Kid, again, stonking opening track. Absolutely love it. The Sun Goes Down is, you know, probably their first big hit single in the UK. Living it up, living it up. Great song. Out of Sight and Out of Mind is really cool too. Absolutely love it. Dance on Heavy Weather. Really danceable track, but great funk with it too. Absolutely love it. A Pharaoh's Dream of Endless Times. Got this, as the title would suggest, kind of Egyptian feel to the music. Standing in the Light is a really good song. It's a Mike Lindup vocal, which I really, really like. I Want Eyes, another beautiful ballad. Absolutely love it. People, another great Mike Lindup vocal. A lovely sort of mellow song to balance the album out. And then you've got absolutely crushing end track, The Machine Stops. Just a wonderful way to end an album. Love it, love it, love it. But my number 1 was always going to be my number 1, and it is the debut album from 1981, Level 42. This album is perfection. Absolute perfection. There's nothing I would change about this album. Turn It On. Again, absolutely brilliant opening track. Great way to announce yourself to the world as a jazz funk band. 43, there's 3 instrumentals on this album. 43 is the first of them, and it's really good. Why Are You Leaving, sorry. They're showing early on their great way with a ballad, but still really funky bass line in that song. Almost There is probably my favorite Level 42 song. Funky as hell, some absolutely great playing on it, some really interesting sort of chord changes and that sort of thing. It's just a wonderful, wonderful song. Heathrow, great instrumental. Love Games is the song that really first brought them to public attention. Wasn't as big a hit as The Sun Goes Down, but it was a minor hit, and it definitely sort of, you know, got them on TV shows in the UK and that sort of thing. Dune Tune might be my favourite Level 42 instrumental. Absolutely wonderful sort of bass solo from Mark King on that song. And then you got Star Child to close it out, a wonderful Mike Lindup vocal. Just as I say, there's nothing I would change about that album, and that's why it's my number 1. So there's my Level 42 ranking. To go through it again in reverse order from my favourite to my least favourite, at number 1 we have Level 42. At number 2, we have Standing in the Light. At number 3, True Colours. At number 4, World Machine. At number 5, we have Pursuit of Accidents. At number 6, Forever Now. At number 7, Running in the Family. At number 8, Guaranteed. At number 9, we have Retroglide. And at number 10, still a really good album, still definitely recommended, is Staring at the Sun. So that's my level 42 ranking. Please let me know in the comments what your ranking would be, if you want to rank the whole catalogue or just give me your top 5. I'd absolutely love to hear people's rankings. Everybody hears these albums differently, obviously, so some of my favourites might be some people's least favourites, and that's cool, you know. It's absolutely fine. You know, this is just my opinion. If you've never listened to Level 42, please go to your listening app of choice and give them a listen. Absolutely well worth it. Highly recommended. Please do like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and watch some of my other videos. Have everything playlisted, so if you want to look at some of my other studio albums ranked shows, there's a playlist for those. If you want to look at some of my Bicycle Legs Discovers the Rush series, there's a playlist for those. If you want to look at my favourite albums of all time, just did an episode of that last week, there's a playlist for that. If you want to see my appearances on other people's channels, there's also a playlist for that. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter, and I now have a dedicated Bicycle Legs Facebook page. Links are all in the description. Please come and give those a follow and join in the conversation. I'd really, really love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.